I first got into road cycling 6, 7 years ago, and just as a recreational thing, really. Didn't realise how much I'd like it. I just like meeting up with my friends on Sunday morning and going for a few miles here, there, and everywhere. And then decided, one day I thought, yeah, I really like this. I really, really like this. Got a bit more competitive at it and started to push myself a little bit more. And that aspect I really enjoyed. On the weekend of the 1st of November 2015, things went a bit different to how I'd ever planned them to go. On Saturday the 31st, which was Halloween, I believe, I went round to a friend's party, and we all had a really good time and discussed going for a ride in the morning. Pretty normal stuff, really. So woke up that morning, got my bike, met up with Mark, and we plotted and decided the route we would take. Lovely day, blue sky, nothing out of the ordinary, and really enjoyed it. On cycling down Pennypot Lane, which was one of our favourites at the time, we were just going fair pace, nothing out of the ordinary, and then in the distance I noticed a black car. It was coming either way. I was on my side of the road, it was on its side of the road. Nothing to worry about. And then within a few yards of it passing, it suddenly skidded out of control, almost right in front of my eyes. And there was nothing I could do. I remember smashing into the car, and I remember rolling over the top of the car, and I remember landing in a ditch. And I think it's fair to say then that things changed for me from that point onward. The ambulance came, lots of people came to help me, and I knew I'd broken my leg. I didn't know at that point the level of my injuries, but it's fair to say that they were severe. And then I got taken to the Major Trauma Centre at Leeds General Infirmary. So I think when I initially got to casualty, it was fairly obvious that I'd broken my leg and that I'd dislocated my left thumb really badly. But part of me thought, okay, I've broken my leg and I've dislocated my thumb, but I didn't really think that the impact was going to be what it was. I just thought they'd fix that and then I'd be on my way home, or I just didn't know the severity at the time. But then the first scans results came back, and they'd found that I'd actually broken my neck and my T6 in my back. I'd actually smashed my femur, and my dislocation of the thumb was very severe. And I guess then I thought this might not be as easy as I thought it was going to be. And then I went up onto the Major Trauma Centre. Feeling a bit low and down and wondering what was in store for me over the weeks to come. I had no idea at the time on how long that was going to take, or what it involved. But one thing was certain at that time: it certainly wasn't going to be a quick fix. And I guess at that time was the time when, in my mind and my mental state, I'd started to ask a few questions about why me, the usual things. Why did that car go out of control? and just various things like that. Kind of like that. Basically, it was pretty difficult. So after my operation on my leg and the operation on my thumb, I became quite ill. I struggled with oxygen levels and had to be on a nebulizer, and struggled to keep my temperature down. This was all made me hallucinate, and I found it very difficult to communicate. And I was in a pretty bad place at that point. I thought, there were really low points then. I had amazing support from my friends and family, and amazing support from the professional people on the ward at the time. During the day, in the first days after coming round from surgery, I met Dr. Louise Johnson for the first time, and she was from clinical psychology. And I must admit, at the first time, you think, there's probably not a lot wrong with my head. But as time goes on in that situation, you do start to ask questions that are difficult to come to terms with. As I said, why me? Why them? Could I have done anything more? And I just found talking to Louise great comfort. It was just a bit different talking to your friends and immediate family. It's hard to explain, but it was very therapeutic, and it's fair to say I got on board with that at an early stage and found it very helpful. So during the 2 weeks I was on the Major Trauma Centre ward, Louise came to see me many times, and we had long chats, some of which were uncomfortable, some were not too bad, but just knowing someone was there that you could mention anything to, not just about the accident, about its impact on you and its impact on your family as well, because some of these things you can't always chat to with someone else. So it was good. It was very good. We discussed obviously ongoing treatment and what was likely to happen, and if I felt that things were not happening how I thought they were, she was a good point of call to mention these things to, and get some clarification, I guess, on where we go from here. It's just another support for what you're already getting in terms of my immediate family, fantastic wife, children, friends, but sometimes it needed to be someone outside of that circle, and obviously that was a great service that came with the Major Trauma Centre, and I do feel very, very lucky to have had access to those services. After leaving the Major Trauma Centre in Leeds LGI, I had another 2 weeks hospital stay at my local hospital in Harrogate, where I continued with my physiotherapy and rehabilitation, and eventually I was allowed home. I think what struck me at the time was, whilst my bones and body was getting better, I was struggling a little bit with my head and what I thought about what had actually happened. The great thing about the Major Trauma Centre's clinical psychology is that you then go in as an outpatient, if that's what you choose for you. It's not for everybody, and I understand that, but for me, it was great comfort to know that I could go back and talk about things that I was struggling with. When I was at home, struggling with coming off pain relief, emotional feelings that being on long-term morphine and things like that have on you. all these things, not just related to your broken bones, were things that clinical psychology could and did help me with. And there were lots of things along the journey that I couldn't explain to myself, and I don't think it was very easy to explain to anyone else. But Louise did a great job in getting those things out in the open, revisiting parts of the accident. Some of this was very uncomfortable, but very, very necessary, I believe now. It's gone a long way to make me feel at least quite a good way back to how I was before the accident. Some of the methods were just chatting, but some methods were a little bit strange. We did a session of EMDR, following the light, clearing your head, coming up with words that were associated with things, and just generally flushing everything out, really. Some very strange feelings linked to that, but it was great. It was really great. It really worked for me, that did. So during my rehabilitation, one of the physios said that it might be a good idea if I try cycling on a gym bike. And I must admit, at the time I thought, oh, can I even do the cycling motion again? Would it throw up any memories, this, that, the other? I did get on the bike, and I actually enjoyed it, but I realised that because of the way my leg was healing, it might be better if I was clipped in to a proper bike on a trainer. So it was still a bike indoors, but my feet were aligned properly. And when I was on the bike, because it was a proper road bike, it did make me think, could I maybe take this out on the road again? And I guess that's where Louise and clinical psychology had really benefited me, because I was able to put the accident down to wrong place, wrong time, and not actually a cycling accident. And that was a key thing for me getting back on the bike, because feeling those thoughts was ultimately what enabled me to get back on the bike. And when I became fit enough, I thought, maybe I'll just cycle my road bike around the block, see what that's like. And then with Louise's help, that then led to cycling further on my own, eventually cycling down the road that the accident was on, with friends at first, and then on my own, and just coming back to clinical psychology to chat about those experiences and how it made me feel. Now I'm almost fully fit on the bike. I've done a few challenges, a few sportives, those kind of things, and I've enjoyed them a lot. In terms of other things I used to do, I don't run anymore, and I don't play competitive tennis anymore. The aggravation on my legs is just too much. But I'm just, I guess in that sense, I'm lucky to be here after what happened, and I'm grateful that I can still cycle and enjoy cycling with my friends. And let's hope it continues a long time. I feel clinical psychology has made a huge difference to my recovery, and the main reason for that is Louise was there from day one up until about 2 weeks ago when I was discharged, and I found that invaluable. I think having someone to talk to that is outside of your friends and family, that's been on the journey all the way, has been a very, very positive thing for me. And if anyone else finds themselves unfortunate enough to have the need for any major trauma services, then I would emphasise that how great having support from the clinical psychology department was. It was great.